Hi guys, my name is Boadzie Daniel. I'm a data scientist and the CTO of Zoom Africa. And in this tutorial, we're going to learn AI by building a chatbot. Now, I'm sure you're probably familiar or you might have seen a lot of chatbots on websites. But before we get started, we need to first understand what a chatbot is. What's a chatbot? So a chatbot is a conversational agent that receives an input from users through text or audio and returns a response, right? So the inputs could be from audio or from text. An example of this is Cortana, Siri, and all the other chatbots available. Now, how does chatbots work? The outworking of a chatbot can be grouped into two. The first one is self-learned chatbot that uses AI components, and then we have the rule-based chatbot. Now, the AI-based chatbots can be grouped into two. One of them is a generative bot, where the AI determine the answer or generate the response that is sent back to the user, while retrieval bots gets the most suitable response from a list of responses. And then a rule-based chatbot operates on some predetermined or predefined rules. Right. Now let's look at some of the applications of a chatbot. So a chatbot has has numerous uses, and it can be used or has been used for many things. For example, a chatbot can be used to recommend products to consumers, right? So you can use a chatbot to recommend products. You can also use a chatbot to help people get loans or credit from organizations. Chatbots are being used today to also make payments, like pay bills, and it's also used to generate leads. So the applications of chatbot are numerous, and they're only limited by your imagination. So many ways you can use a chatbot to interact with your customer base. Now, let's look at some of the libraries available for building a chatbot. Now, generally, we can group chatbot libraries into two: low code or no code chatbot libraries or frameworks, and then we have those that requires you to write code. And those that requires you to write code can be done using different programming languages like Python or JavaScript and others, right? And then we have low code platforms, usually cloud-based, where you can use drag and drop, or you interface with a drag and drop interface to build your chatbot. An example of this include Chatflow and Dialogflow. Dialogflow is a chatbot platform from Google. It has a nice free tier, and then some parts of it are paid. So it's one way you can build a chatbot today. Chatflow is another example, and there are so many other low code or no code chatbot platforms. And when it comes to building chatbot from scratch or building chatbots using programming languages like Python, examples include Rasa, which is very popular. Rasa, in my subsequent tutorials, I'll be showing you how to build a chatbot using Rasa. And then we have Chatterbot. So in this tutorial, we're going to use Chatterbot, a very cool, easy to build chatbot framework available in Python. All right, now let's look at how Chatterbot works. So if you visit the Chatterbot website, Chatterbots doc, it says Chatterbot is a Python library that makes it easy to generate automated responses to a user's input. And these inputs can come in many forms, including even APIs, right? Chatbots make it really easy to build a chatbot. And that's what we're going to use in this tutorial. Now, how does it work? First, you get the user's input. Could be speech, it could be text, it could be from an API, or it could also be from a console, right? And then it processes the inputs by doing natural language processing pipeline, passes through a pipeline, where things like tokenization and clearing of white spaces can be done, right, in the processing unit, after which the output of the processing unit is sent to logic adapters. Now, logic adapters are like, you can say, the engine or the brain of your chatbot, right? So they select the best response to match the input that the user sent, right? And there can be more than one logic adapters. There are so many logic adapters that you can use. You can even create your own custom logic adapters, right? And then after that, the response is sent back to the user. Now let's see all of this in action. So first, we're going to create a directory. If you're using Linux or Windows, if you're using Windows, then maybe you may need to install Windows subsystem for Linux. So you can use Ubuntu on your Windows machine. And if you're a Mac or Linux user, then you can follow the commands. First, you create a directory, and then you create a virtual environment. We're going to call a virtual environment bot. After which you activate the virtual environment, and then you install the dependencies. Now, the project dependencies are available here on my GitHub page. I go to github.com. The repo is /Boadzie Daniel, and the repo is Chatbot. Yes, so the link is down below this video. You can check it out. So if you check the requirement.tsc file, it contains all the dependencies we need for this project. All right, now if you get the dependencies, you install them with pip install-r requirement.txt, right, to get the dependencies. Next, we create an app.py file that will contain our chatbot. Now, this is how the app.py file will look like. First, we are importing UVCon. We are going to be using Fast API to build our chatbot API. And Fast API is a cool Python web framework with async support. It's very fast. It has support for the new Python features, and it has type hinting through Pydantic. So it's a very nice web framework. We're using it a lot for deploying machine learning and AI-based applications. So check out Fast API. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how we can use it to deploy our Chatterbot chatbot. Okay. So first, we import UVCon. Now, UVCon is an async server that we'll be using to run our API. Then we need to import chatbots from Chatterbots. Then we import our bot trainers. Now, I'll talk more about bot trainers later on as we go. Import Fast API and then call so we can enable cross-platform, cross-origin interaction with our API. Okay. Now, this is API tags metadata. It just provides time information for the API, so we make it look nicer. All right. So first, we need to create an instance of Fast API, give it a title, a version, and some extra information or metadata that we created here. Next, we are going to use Pydantic. Pydantic, it's a Python library that we use to create type hint for our requests and responses, right? So enable us to ensure, for example, we want the request from the user to be of a type what? String or text. Okay, and that is going to be passed into the request to ensure that the only string types are sent from the client. Okay. Next, we need to create the chatbot instance. And the first argument to the chatbot instance is the name of the chatbot. And in this case, I'm calling mine Damilola. Next, we create or we add preprocessors, a list of preprocessors. But for this tutorial, we're just going to use a clean white spaces preprocessor. And next, we're going to use our logic adapters. Now there are so many logic adapters. One of them is best match. Another one is a time logic adapter, which tells time. And one sweet thing about Chatterbot is that it enables you to save the user's interaction with your chatbot in an SQLite database, or it could even be a Postgres database where you can go back and use that information to retrain your chatbot. So your chatbot will get better as users interact with it. Now, after we've created an instance of a chatbot, we need to train it. And Chatterbot comes with two different chatbot trainers, right? We have the list trainer that takes in a list input for your training data. And then we have the corpus trainer. So in this tutorial, we're going to use the corpus trainer, right? Then the corpus trainer will pass in our own custom data. So the most important part is we are going to be using a corpus trainer to train the bot on our own custom data. Now, how do you create data sets for training using Chatterbot? You need to create a YAML file. YAML is a file format. It's a very popular file format, like JSON and others, but it has its own rules for like creating documents or formatting documents. Okay, so in this case, we need to put two things that are very important here. First, the category of your chatbot. So we are calling this one Zimit Africa Customer Service. And then the next thing is your conversations. Now you can look at this as supervised machine learning, where you pass in an input and then the labels, right, to your machine learning model so it can be trained on it. So how do we format the text for training? Now in the Chatterbots, if you're using or in YAML, we need to like specify. When you specify 2 dashes, it means what the user will say, right? And then what the bot will say will be 1 dash. And the indentation, then the formatting are very important in YAML. So if you get it wrong, it might not be able to recognize what you want to do. Okay. So remember that if you want to create a user's statement or what the user would write, then you need to use 2 dashes, and then the bot's response will be 1 dash. So all these things here constitute the bot's response. Now you can add more than 1 response to a particular request, right, from the user. You can have more. So we have a simple training data here that we'll be using to train our bot. Okay, now if we head back to our app.py file, we will use the bot trainer that we've inserted, which is using the corpus trainer to train our chatbot. The first argument is your custom training data. And then next, I'm also going to use an inbuilt training corpus, the English training corpus that we installed it when we installed the Chatterbot corpus, right? So Chatterbot corpus contains the English training data, which includes greetings and other things, right? Conversations, greetings. We are going to use that as well to train our chatbot. You can have as many training data as possible when you're using Chatterbot. So this will train our chatbots. Then after that, we are ready to use a chatbot. And to do that, we need to create a post endpoint that will take in a user's text and then returns a response, right? And to get a response from our bot, we just use the get response method from Chatterbot and pass in our text. Then we return our text in the form of JSON, right? So if you want to run this, first we need to activate our virtual environment. So virtual environment is called bot. So source bot, then activate. Yeah, now we are inside the bot. Now we can do UVicon app, which is the name of our module. And then the app instance created in the module. We do dash reload to reload the server. And they are saying as server is up, a local host port 8000. So if you go to our browser, make a local host 8000, you see that our API is working, do slash docs. And one cool thing about fast API is it gives us automatic documentation out of the box. You don't have to do anything to get this interface. This makes it easy for you to interact with the chatbot. So if I say hello here, the chatbot will send me a response, right? It's saying hi. So I can say, who is Zoom it Africa? Can't even spell. So who is Zoom it Africa? Execute, and we get a response, right? So our chatbot is working very well. This is how we create an API of our chatbot using Fast API. So in the next tutorial, we are going to be deploying our chatbot to a Docker Hub. We're creating a Docker container for it, deploy it to Docker Hub, and then use AWS to deploy it so other people can use our API. So we've successfully built our API, right, with Fast API. But now we want to deploy it. And in order to do that, we need to use Docker. What is Docker? Docker is a software packaging tool that we use to bundle our software and then push it online. So Docker contains all the things, the architecture and everything you need to deploy or run an application, right? In an enclosed environment. Okay, so it means that if you containerize our application with Docker, you can run it anywhere Docker works. Okay, now in order to do that, first we need to create a Docker file. Now, Docker file is like a blueprint for our container, right? So it contains all the instructions we need or Docker needs to build our container, right? Now, how does it look like? So we are saying that we are going to be using Python 3.8 Slim. We set some environment variables, right? We created a working directory where our app will live. We copied our requirement.tsc file into the containers or to the container, right? Then we upgraded pip and then we install the dependencies in our requirement.tsc file inside our container. Next, we copied all the files in our current directory into the container, and then we expose the port 8000, and then we use the command UVicon app dash ports, which is the port 8000 to run our application, right? Now let's see this in action. In order to create a container, we need to first build our Docker image. Okay, so to build our Docker image, we run docker build -t, then the ID that we'll be using for Docker Hub, then the name of the bot in the current directory. So let's wait. Okay, so our container is built. Next, we need to run our container and see if it's working. We use docker run, then we specify a port and then the name of our container to run it. So take a while. So we wait towards our container is run by Docker. Okay, now our container is up. Go to our browser. We go to localhost 8000/docs. We'll see the Swagger UI as well. And if you try our bot, Payment Africa. We see our bot working successfully, right? So we've successfully build our container, and then run a container on a local machine. But we want to make it available online so other people can use it. And in order to do that, first we need to push the container to Docker Hub, and then eventually connect to it on AWS using license, right? So let's build a container, push a container to the Docker Hub. First, you need to make sure you have an account on Docker Hub. I already have an account. You create a repo, give it a name. The name could be the name you use for your application or your API, right? And then you use a command. First you log in, so you need to log into your Docker. So your Docker Hub, you need to log into your Docker Hub, sudo docker login. That will log you into the Docker Hub. And then you use sudo docker push your container ID, and then the API name, and then a tag, right, to push the container. So I've done that already, so I'm not going to do it again. Now, after you push your container to a Docker Hub, it will look something like this. So if you go to repositories, yes, I have a container here on a Docker Hub, right? Next, now that we have it, we need to go to AWS. So sign in into your AWS console, look for live sales, and this will bring you to the live sales homepage. Then click on containers, create container service, select your region, select your node, right? So for selecting this node, next give your service a name. So let's say Chatbot for this service. Then set up a deployment, custom deployment, give it a name. So this will be the same as Chatbot. Now copy the name of your image on Docker Hub, paste it in the image area. Next, add open ports. Because our application is running on port 8000, we'll leave this at port 8000. Next, we need to make the port available publicly. So we select Chatbot, and now our port is available public. Next, we click on create container service. Look like I already have a service with that name. So let me add one to this. So Chatbot 1, try again. Okay, now it's created, right? So now it's deploying our container, deploying our application online. This could take a while, so we need to wait. This could take a while. So I'll be back when this is ready. Okay, so now our application is active now and it's accessible on this URL. So let's check it out. Let's try this. Click on the URL. Let's see /docs, and voila, we have a running API on AWS. So this is how you build and deploy a chatbot using Chatterbot, Docker, and then run it on AWS Lightsail. Thank you very much for watching.